Welcome to this week's episode of Safety Brainiacs. Today we're talking about one of the critical roles in the internal responsibility system, and that is the duties of supervisors. Supervisors can go by a number of different names, perhaps lead hand, team leader, supervisor, etc. In most jurisdictions, there'll be a definition of what a supervisor is. In Manitoba, our definition is anyone who directs the work of somebody else, even if you call them by another name, like a foreman. Did you know that supervisors are one of the most influential people in a worker's life? And when you think about that, it makes sense. You know, a lot of people spend more time at work and more time with their coworkers than they even spend with their own family oftentimes. So does it make sense that a supervisor could become really influential in a worker's life? So the duties of a supervisor, in my view, go far beyond the legal requirements. I think first and foremost as supervisors, we have a moral obligation and we have stewardship for those workers that we're leading, whether they're younger or older than us. So it's really important that we grow ourselves as leaders and that we actually model safe work practices. I think the most effective supervisors also are very good at modeling leadership that's coming from a position of being in service. Many times we let the role of supervisor go to our head, and they say if you really want to show the character of a person, give them power, right? So if we have power, the power that goes to our head is not really very helpful, but the power that comes from the head connected to the heart, wanting to lead, wanting to watch out for others, wanting to mentor others, being able to communicate with others in a way that they can hear what we're saying and actually take ownership of their actions and do the right thing. That's what it means to be a supervisor. Beyond the moral and human obligations, there's also very serious legal responsibilities in all jurisdictions. So in general, some of the duties of supervisors are to take all precautions necessary to make sure that the health and safety of workers under your supervision is protected. Take all precautions necessary. So what does that mean? Making sure your workers are aware of your policies and procedures. Not only aware, but the fact that they can actually implement them. Making sure that your workers know to report hazards and near misses. Making sure they're trained properly. Making sure that you're monitoring from time to time and observing and not just looking for unsafe conditions, but unsafe practices and even positive practices. Sometimes you might be admonishing people for substandard behavior, but as supervisors, we should also be making an effort to look for positive behaviors and reinforcing those. Other duties of supervisors, including ensuring that all workers under your supervision wear all their personal protective equipment and use any other devices that are designed for their protection. Another key duty of a supervisor is to make sure if there are hazards in the work environment, to make sure that workers know that they exist and make sure that they're communicated and controlled. Sometimes supervisors, with all their 20, 30 years of experience, there's things in the environment that we may not even perceive as a hazard anymore because we're so used to them. But a new and inexperienced worker, that's a totally different story. So always err on the side of caution. Make sure that all hazards, all unsafe conditions are recognized in your work area, identified to your workers, communicated, and wherever you can, make sure they're controlled. One of the most important duties of a supervisor, above all other duties, is to enforce safe work. And I know that's not always an easy thing for all people. Sometimes it can be difficult because people don't like confrontation, but I would like to encourage you that when there is a serious incident, supervisors can experience a cost that goes far beyond the monetary cost, which could be fines, hiring their own lawyer if that's the way their company chooses to go. And by the way, those fines can be in the range of $10,000. It's serious. There are legal obligations as a supervisor. And more importantly, it's the moral obligation. So I've seen instances where workers have been injured. Supervisors knew they should have been enforcing safe work, and now they are living with the legacy of their supervision and somebody with a long-term chronic injury like living in a wheelchair, and they're wishing forever and ever more that they would have enforced safe work. So in summary, the duties and responsibilities of a supervisor are a noble and wonderful responsibility. We get the opportunity to mentor, to model safe work, People are entrusted to us to coach. I think that's the spirit that we should be embracing. Also remember that it is serious. We must take our responsibility seriously, enforce safe work. Your workers' lives are depending on it. It is a requirement of the regulatory regime here in Canada. For more information, click the link below. We have lots of resources on our free resources webpage. We have supervisor responsibilities online training that's high impact. If you're interested, click the link below to subscribe or contact us. That's it for this episode of Safety Brainiacs. Remember, a Brainiac is an exceptionally intelligent person, so go out there, make great safety choices so that your people go home safe at the end of the day and your company is profitable and viable.